Hello, and welcome to Inconceivable! I'm William.
I'm Alex.
And I'm Wesley. And we are the Fellowship of the Ring.
Right. Where are we going?
Won't we need second breakfast first?
What about 11sies?
Lunch.
Afternoon tea.
Wait,
Dinner, supper.
what's the whole line of Lord of the Rings?
For that one?
No, just like all the meals. Like there's like a specific.
All right,
line
yeah, there
of
is.
meals.
So there's breakfast, second breakfast, 11sies, luncheon, afternoon tea, dinner, supper. So 7 meals for hobbits.
And any desserts not mentioned.
Yes.
But
Take me now.
how about I go first then? Because that
Yeah.
Let's segue right into
it
that.
segues right into my topic.
Flip Gary.
So, I love Lord of the Rings very much. I recently rediscovered that love of Lord of the Rings. Alex and his family, actually, I wouldn't even know about Lord of the Rings if it was not for the Shaw family.
Well, I feel like you would have found out eventually.
Maybe eventually, but it was they definitely had a big part in it. But I recently watched all 3 movies again, and before we started watching them, I was just kind of like, yeah, I like Lord of the Rings, but you know, it's not like still around. So like,
it's not as relevant as it used to.
Yeah, I was like, I think I'm more interested in other
Still
things.
hurts though, because
It
it's
does.
such a big part of my childhood.
Yeah.
And I guess kind of yours, but not as
Oh,
much.
definitely.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, let's see.
Well, you said you kind of liked it, and then you kind of forgot about it.
From like 12 on
Mhm.
for our childhoods. But yeah, so I was just kind of like, yeah, I like Lord of the Rings. It's been a while though, and then we start watching them again, and I'm just like blown away. I'm like, these are awesome. Like I forgot how much I just absolutely loved these movies.
Well, they're absolutely fantastic, especially considering that they came out in the early 2000s.
I know.
Like, they still hold up pretty good, I think. I mean, I feel bad because I haven't seen them in forever, but they look good.
It's not bad. Yeah, and I was looking for that too because I was like, I wonder how the special effects fare like
Maybe
more than
some
10
of
years
them?
later.
What would you say, like, some of them just didn't...
I was not taken out of the movie by anything.
I think, actually, I was more taken out by the Hobbit movies with their special effects than with this one, because with this one, they use more practical effects, like miniatures and, you know...
Yeah. So how does their effects hold up now, looking back on like 10 plus years?
For instance, you remember the beginning of the Fellowship of the Ring where Sauron's got like his huge mace and he's just like swinging across and like people are flying everywhere. Going into that scene, I was like, I wonder how this is going to look, because that's obviously completely digitally rendered, like he is, and then just the people flying everywhere.
Yeah.
I watched it and I was like, they could do better now, but this doesn't bother me. I'm not taken out of the movie by it at all.
That's good.
Yeah.
You're not just like, ooh, that was CGI.
Exactly. I didn't. I was like, yeah, it was totally fine.
And I think, if I remember correctly, Lord of the Rings had one of the highest budgets of its time for
yeah.
movies.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
Oh, it
It's
kind of
crazy.
had to be. I mean, they were actually filming all 3 movies at once.
Yep. Yeah, in New Zealand.
I remember I was watching the special features for like each individual movie, basically as much as I'd watch the actual movie itself, just because I wanted to see how they made it, how it worked, how the actors like got to their characters, and that was like a really big part of my childhood too, because like I really loved seeing the miniatures, the costumes, just the sets, locations. Like they went so they filmed in New Zealand, right? They like went to so many places. They literally went on top of mountains to do locations. You know, they built like a Hobbiton area, which they tore down, but then they rebuilt it for the Hobbit movies, and they actually made it as a tourist spot.
Yeah, that's
So,
cool.
Yeah,
Like just during filming, or is it still up?
just during filming for the Lord of the Rings,
Yeah.
but then they rebuilt it for the Hobbit,
And
and
it's
then
still there.
it's still there. Yeah, you
Oh,
can actually
cool.
go to Hobbiton.
That's
and,
awesome.
You know,
That's so cool.
I'm pretty sure that they have the pub there too, the Green Dragon.
You're doing
Yeah.
something similar for Game of Thrones. I don't know if it's going to be permanent, but they're going to leave it for a certain period after filming for people to visit and go to Westeros, which I think is really cool.
Do we
is
know
cool.
what place exactly?
Isn't it in... I don't want to... I
Well,
know
like
it's not... I want to say it's like... It's not Iceland, is it?
No, I'm asking like what's the location? Like, what's
in
the set?
Westeros. Then.
Oh,
Do you know?
I don't know specifically.
I don't know enough about Game of Thrones to.
But yeah, I think it's interesting. Lord of the Rings is kind of a special case where Lord of the Rings was big, and by big I mean like Star Wars big at its peak. You know, in the early 2000s, Star Wars had just finished its prequel movies, and everyone was full on board with Lord of the Rings. I'm trying to remember what other stuff was big.
They were basically coming out around the same time because Phantom Menace came out in like what 99.
Yeah, and Revenge of the Sith came out 2005.
Yeah,
so they were literally the prequels, and
Return of the King.
That was
Revenge
like
of the Sith
a
came
golden
out.
age for kids like us. Like
I mean,
Lord of
I
the
wasn't
Rings.
allowed to go see them in theaters.
Okay, so it's a golden age for me.
But yeah, still odd. I first saw Lord of the Rings when I was 6 years old. I mean, we went back and actually no, I watched it before that. But my parents were kind of on and off about what I was allowed to watch.
I was gonna say
it was very odd.
Your parents must have been so sold on like the fact that Tolkien's a Christian that they were just like, Lord of the Rings is okay, even though like there's wizards and stuff. We don't let you watch Harry Potter.
Harry Potter, nah.
Yeah, my parents were the same way though. They,
I mean, they saw Gandalf as more as an angel type, I guess.
Exactly,
Which
he is. Yeah,
basically.
Technically, my parents are the same way. Harry Potter was a no-go, and then Lord of the Rings is okay because Gandalf is like a Jesus type figure.
Yeah,
which I understand, especially at a young age, being impressionable. Like that's fine.
Oh yeah, I was definitely
they don't care if we watch them now. It was just as we were young kids.
Which is weird because like Lord of the Rings has some really graphic moments.
Oh my goodness!
That's okay. So that's the thing is
my parents
them,
let me watch that.
Watching them this time around, I did not realize how dark and disturbing they are at times. Like I was watching them with someone, and she's like. I couldn't believe like we were like legitimately watching a horror movie at some at certain points. Like I was like, whoa, I don't remember it being like this.
I remember some parts where that were like so scary that I literally could not watch them for the longest time. I still don't know if I can actually watch them again. But
and then meanwhile in Harry Potter, the scariest thing, like my mom thought that the
Dementors.
That's true, but that didn't come until later. By that point, I was already a teen. But, like, the big spider in the second movie, I remember that being like...
I think that was a big spider. Shelob's a big spider. Good grief.
Oh, the one from Lord of the Rings? Yeah.
Terrifying. I mean,
gross.
She used her webs and everything, but
For me, I didn't, as far as parents goes, I didn't have anything withheld back from me as far as those. I remember the first R-rated movie I watched was The Matrix, which was fantastic.
I watched The Matrix, and it didn't really seem like it needed to be R-rated for me personally. I haven't watched it in a while.
Yeah, well,
to be.
Today's time, no. Back then, yes, and it's mostly because of the swearing
sense, though, because you
stuff.
remember the 80s, those were R-rated movies just because they were like pretty graphic. I mean, granted, it was so fake that you didn't notice it, but still.
One of the main reasons why it's R-rated is because the swearing.
I didn't notice any F-bombs in that movie.
Well, it doesn't even
It's been a while.
F-bombs.
I have to go back.
Yeah, now you can drop one F-bomb and still it be PG-13.
That's it, though. That's all you
can.
Yeah,
you can do the S word a lot more. You know,
I didn't notice any of them in the Matrix movie when I watched it. So
I'm pretty sure. I'm almost certain.
Let's watch it again because I'm pretty sure it's been a while. The worst part of that movie that I noticed, besides like this, like it wasn't a big deal, although like the shooting guns and stuff. But the worst part for me was when the thing. Spoiler alert for people who haven't seen The Matrix. It's been like 18 years, 20 years since it came out. The worst part is when that robot thing goes into his belly button. That was the worst part for me. I'm just like, nope, that's disgusting.
But Venom that just came out, which is PG-13, they swear a lot in that movie. Like,
Yes,
I don't notice these things anymore.
I only noticed it because the rating was such a debate, so I was curious to see how much swearing, how much graphic.
I remember the one time he said the F word in the movie, though.
Yeah, there's always that one token F word.
Mm-hmm. See, you notice it. Obviously, you notice it a lot more in PG-13 movies because you're just like, all right. Wait for it.
Looking for that one
Where's it gonna be? There it is.
I just think it's funny because they know they have like that one like superpower.
Let's make it count.
Where can we put it in the movie where it's the most effective?
Yeah.
But Lord of the Rings, right? Yeah.
No swearing in that. Were those PG or PG-13?
Oh, they were definitely PG-13.
They would definitely be for the images.
I was going to say just for the graphic.
You know what's really interesting is that with the Hobbit movies, they came out. They were PG-13 too, even though that they were based off of a book that was for a younger audience. The Hobbit, which is a smaller book than any one of the individual Lord of the Rings books, and they still made it into 3 movies. But what was interesting was that they came out with an extended version of the last movie for the Hobbit, and they made it rated R. Just to get more blood and guts and gore into the battle, which doesn't make any sense because. For one, Tolkien, he was very adamant saying, like, he doesn't care for violence. He was part of World War I believe.
Yeah.
And, like, he was very against it, but all of the violence in The Lord of the Rings, there was a purpose to it.
Exactly.
And I thought Peter Jackson knew that as well. I thought he agreed with that. And then he comes out with The Hobbit, and it's like, no, let's see all these orcs get decapitated like 50 times and see this wolf get smashed into the ground. Or
yeah, I don't want to talk about The Hobbit too much. But,
yeah, sorry.
But no, it's okay. That's okay. But one thing thing about The Hobbit that was interesting to me is, like you said, it's a book that by itself is still smaller than any one of the trilogy books.
To be fair, they did add some of the appendices from the Lord of the Rings to make it.
That's fair.
Yeah.
And I could see a justification for 3 movies for the one Hobbit book if they faithfully adapted every page. Seriously, like if you think it would still be 3 movies?
I think it would maybe be 2 movies, but also if they faithfully adapted the book like page for page, then all the other characters except for Thorin, Bilbo, and Gandalf, they wouldn't have anything. There's not like the dwarves say like 1 or 2 lines. They had to flesh out the characters for the dwarves. They had 13.
It's a different medium.
Yeah, they had 13 dwarves to work with. They had to do something to make them unique. And,
we have 13 dwarves. What do we do with them?
You put an axe in that guy's head and have him just speak, in Dwarvish all the time. Okay, have that guy be fat.
Does one of them speak in Dwarvish all the time?
Yeah.
Oh, I've only seen the first one and I barely remember it. Yeah. I remember the crazy like wood wizard, like in the woods.
They ruined that. They ruined Radagast the Brown. I mean, they could have done a lot with him, but they just had him be like this weird, pothead sort of guy who had bird poo in his hair. It's very disappointing. Yeah.
So Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings.
But yeah, like I was like, it surprised me how graphic they were, and just like
they had, what was it? The third one they were catapulting heads into a city.
Yeah.
That was scary as crap.
Yeah. And like just the level of cinematography and the storytelling.
For those of you listening, Wesley's doing the Italian
hand. The level
of intensity in the cinematography.
But I did laugh a few times just because, and it's because I've seen them so many times that I was able to like take myself out of it to see what was going on. But like like the sad choir music every time something bad happens. Like you think someone's dead, and like immediately things start to slow down. You just hear like the
that.
Yeah,
Oh.
I mean, it's good if you're like still like in the movie, but I've seen them so many times I was able to take myself out and be like, what are they doing here?
Yeah.
Like it just that happens every time something sad happens.
I kind of do that more and more nowadays than I used to.
You know what scene I think what's the best example of this effect is seeing Boromir die when he's just constantly getting
sometimes it's just it's a close-up of him going
That's actually one of my favorite scenes in the whole trilogy.
It's so
is
good.
The Boromir thing because he comes full circle as a character too.
Yeah. But I just think it's so funny though, just watching him, and he's like, "Oh, there's an arrow." I was like, "Oh, he's still going." Oh no! Oh, he gets shot again.
Yeah.
Oh no!
He's still going. It's like Scott Sterling. It's the same thing.
To be fair, he had like 5 arrows in him at that point.
It's
he was still
only 3. Okay, we embellish it. It's only 3. which is still a lot.
Wait, hold on.
But that's the thing.
That's 2 more than it should take.
I'm gonna replay it in my mind. You guys keep talking.
Okay. So anyway, the scene that made me laugh was when you think Aragorn is dead in the 2 towers and he falls off the cliff, and Éowyn is like, so like her uncle, the king, comes and he's like, or someone has the final word.
It was Gimli.
Gimli's like, you fell. And then you just get a look from the king towards Éowyn, and then Éowyn's like she just like looks down like really sad, and then the like choir music starts playing and things get slow, and it's like, and I'm just sitting there like, I know he's not dead. This just seems silly to me right now. like
if you think about it, that's kind of the same problem that we have with the Avengers movie right now, is that we know a lot of them aren't dead, but we still felt it. I mean, granted, we don't feel as much now, but
one thing
I literally spent the end of Avengers Infinity War going, nope, don't buy it, like the whole time.
So, a couple things I'd like to ask you after rewatching this. Do you think that this is one of the best examples of movies holding up in their time?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
The third one
because
won,
their budget,
several Oscars, including Best Picture.
Their budget was like, because I will stand by this. I prefer practical effects to digital effects every time. But they had such a big budget for this movie that literally when the movie came out, the special effects must have been like amazing because they still look good now. You know what I mean? Like
Gollum looks.
Yeah,
that was a revolutionary turning point.
It really was.
Motion.
I'm sure that was one of the first motion capture success stories.
I don't think it's even called motion capture anymore. I think it's like it's called like
motion performance.
Motion performance. Yeah. That's what Andy Serkis was talking about at RTX
and he revolutionized that. He's the guy.
He's the guy
he's
who
the
does
man.
it all the time.
Yeah. But,
and now it's a much more big deal because he's also done, the Planet of the Apes movies. Thanos is motion capture. A lot of villains nowadays are motion
Thanos I found very, I literally forgot that he was CGI.
I forgot he wasn't real too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's really cool to see how we've come in. Lord of the Rings was such a revolutionary.
You still know he's not, but it's so. I don't know. It's
really
got that weird quality.
About it.
Yeah.
They finally, I think we're getting over the, what do they call it? Creepy Valley? No.
I remember. I know what you're talking about. It's like a threshold where and they can actually do it. They can make something look so real that you think it's real, but it actually creeps people
Uncanny
out.
Valley.
Uncanny
I think
Valley.
they're just getting over the Uncanny Valley because it's something where something is so not human that it doesn't bother you, but the more and more human-like it becomes, the more and more creepy it gets, and then there's a certain point where it's so close to being realistic, but just not quite, where it's super uncanny and really unnerving. So things in this category being like masks or stuff like that.
Or Rogue One with Governor Tarkin and Princess Leia.
That was a little weird.
A little uncanny.
Yeah. So the thing is I think you have to maintain some kind of it can't.
I don't think it can be a human per se.
It still can't be totally real looking. Because I actually watched behind the scenes for Finding Nemo, and they actually could have made Finding Nemo.
That's right, the water.
They could have made the water and the fish look exactly like in real life, but they said it weirded people out.
Yeah.
So they toned it way down, cartoony for Finding Nemo. I thought that was so cool.
Yeah, probably because they were getting too close to that Uncanny Valley. So rather than making it obviously not more human-like to get over it, they decided to go back and go down the slope rather than trying to push past it. So I feel like those characters managed to just get past that, and I feel like that's becoming more and more common. So where we're actually pushing it past this huge.
Yeah, because for the instance with Gollum, the eyes are huge.
Yeah, there's no way.
And so it's like you're not
you're not accepting.
Also, you're not creeped out by Gollum because he looks too real. You're just creeped out by him because he looks weird.
Quick question: do we need to have a spoiler alert for the Lord of the Rings movies?
No.
Okay.
No, if you haven't seen them by now, it's too late.
No, just go watch them. And special features.
One thing that I would like to talk about that I think is interesting about Lord of the Rings, looking back on it, is we see other big movies of this stature, Star Wars, Harry Potter, things of that nature. Lord of the Rings being such a big caliber in its popularity and the effect that we just talked about, the lasting effect that it's had on the film industry as a whole and as pop culture. Why is it kind of gone out of relevancy now?
Here's why.
Because
our culture is so driven by stories that don't end. You know what I mean? Everything just lasts forever. Or it has some
They want to have some opening just in case they want to make something else.
Either that, or it has some kind of spin-off that's carrying the torch now. And Lord of the Rings is an open and shut case, but
they've had
the story.
But they've had The Hobbit, which is a spin-off.
Yeah, but we don't talk about those.
We don't
talk about those.
But I'm just saying
I can't even it's just weird for me. I don't feel like I don't know.
Even during
it does not make me feel like I'm watching a Lord of the Rings movie.
Yeah, they don't have
the same feel at all.
And I get that, and I could argue a similar point for Harry Potter.
Yeah,
however, Harry Potter is still extremely relevant, even though
I think it's because there's so many of those. I think it's the volume of the Harry Potter movies.
Also, kids can really relate to it more because it's a coming of age.
Another
story.
thing is the Harry Potter universe has so much room in it for more stories, where the Lord of the Rings doesn't. Even the plot is open and shut. You know what I mean? There is literally nothing to worry about after Sauron gets defeated.
Not really.
From there on, it's all normal fantasy stuff. You know what I mean?
Have you read the book?
No.
Or the books?
No.
Yeah, there's a couple of things that go wrong afterwards, but for the most part, that was
in comparison, it's nothing.
Yeah, no.
Because we're talking world-ending stuff. There's nothing just normal disputes and stuff like that.
The plot is so epic and stuff,
now, okay, putting that in context, I'm trying to think of earlier trilogies similar to Lord of the Rings.
We didn't have a lot of earlier trilogies. We had Back to the Future,
Matrix.
Indiana Jones. Well, Matrix was coming out during the time of Lord of the Rings, sort of.
Yeah.
Okay, but I think Indiana Jones, that's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
Also,
that's not
relevant.
even a trilogy though. Not anymore. It's got more movies than 3 now.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think.
We don't talk about
when
that,
the new
though,
movie
either.
came out. Did that kind of bring it out of relevance? I don't know.
Yeah, a little bit. Not really.
Yeah.
It was there, and people watched it, and people realized it wasn't really that great, and so then it fell back into...
Well, Indiana Jones is more like in the cult classic area.
Yeah, they're
But with Lord of the Rings, what area is it in? Because maybe it's a cult classic, or maybe it's something else.
I think the Lord of the Rings trilogy, I think any one of those movies even is up there in the best movies ever made. Okay. I think maybe Lord of the Rings is still a little... And it's weird because it's not new, but I still think maybe it's a little...
It's newer.
It's still too new to be considered, like, classic.
It's not...
Yeah, maybe that's what it needs to do, is it needs to get...
What? Because maybe it's because like we watched it as kids, so we don't think of it as like really old.
It could be our generation too.
I think you're onto something though. I think that it's in that weird phase where it's not new, but it's not
it's
old.
Still like a living legend type of thing.
Because one thing I will say is that Back to the Future has made a comeback. I see tons of merch for it all the time. A lot of circulating people buy it all the time because of nostalgia. And I just think that Lord of the Rings is only not relevant right now because it hasn't hit that phase where it can be considered a classic. It's still not old enough, it's still fair. Here's to put in perspective. We have to also, if we were to consider that Lord of the Rings is an old classic, we'd also have to put the prequels with that because it was at the same time period. Which nobody would say the prequels were like an old.
When you say classic, you mean movies that are like great though.
Yeah, I'm saying. But that being said, classic also implies
it
older.
Also implies that it's been around for a while,
right?
And I would say you
would, regardless of what you think of the prequels as far as quality goes, you wouldn't say that the prequels are that old and that level.
No, they're not even. I love the prequels though. There's so much good culture
especially
from
the
them.
Memes that come.
Exactly.
From them.
Yeah.
The memes are the best part.
And I think Revenge of the Sith is a legitimately good movie.
Oh yeah.
And I also think The Phantom Menace is a legitimately good movie. I get some pushback on that one, but I actually like The Phantom Menace. It's the Attack of the Clones I can't stand.
Well, as we're speaking about Star Wars and clones, that kind of goes into what Alex wants to talk about.
I hate to break the segue, but I have one more thing I want to say about Lord of the Rings.
I want to keep talking about Lord of the Rings, sort of. Like, I have so much
we should just have a Lord of the Rings
entire
episode.
one, but I don't know if we can do that today.
But Amazon is getting a Lord of the Rings TV show, so maybe we'll have Lord of the Rings. That's all I want. Yeah, I just want to say that it's interesting because we're talking about how it hasn't been in the spotlight for a while, could be coming back.
And to be honest, with Game of Thrones...
It's ending next year.
Yeah, it's ending. That could take that helm of that hold that people are now going to have.
This isn't some like side story. They're going to adapt the books to a TV show, which I actually like because I like seeing things taken differently. You know what I mean? I'm excited to see who they'll cast in the roles. Like, I'm excited to see what they'll do with all the extra time. Like, maybe the show won't start at the Fellowship. Maybe the show starts before the Fellowship. Incorporate some of the Silmarillion.
Silmarillion?
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know how much of the Silmarillion actually ties into the Lord of the Rings story specifically.
It sets up a lot of the backdrop though.
For the world, yes.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It builds the...
I think one thing they're going to have a hard time with is casting, because I can't think of another movie that has such iconic casting.
Well, here's the thing. Rings, though, some of those guys didn't do anything else notable ever.
Not really,
even the guy who played Aragorn, he's in like a couple of movies,
that's
maybe?
Worse. But that's worse when they haven't done anything notable, because then that's all you see them as. For instance,
I suppose.
Who's the guy who plays Frodo?
Elijah Wood.
Elijah Wood. He's done other stuff, but everybody knows him as Frodo, and it's so hard for him to break that image. So because of that, to have someone else play Frodo makes it a little bit harder.
He has an iconic character. A lot of actors, they do great in certain things, but sometimes they aren't remembered.
Hold on, did you pick anything to talk about? Can we spend Alex's if you want to?
I was thinking about talking about something, but I can talk about it next time. Let's
do another 20 of Lord of the Rings.
I'm sorry, people. You're getting more Lord of the Rings. # not sorry.
Yeah, not sorry at all. Because I also want to talk about like who you think your favorite characters were, and maybe who you think, even if they weren't your favorite characters, who had the best performances.
Samwise Gamgee, my
Sam
boy.
Is awesome. He's not only is it a great performance by Sean Astin, all 3 movies, but he's a great character.
He gets so much better. He goes from simple gardener hobbit.
You want to be Sam, especially
to being
your friends.
Like the best bro ever, who will go like basically to hell and back with your friend, and he did basically.
Yeah.
He climbed.
I can't carry it for you, but I can carry you. And you're like, like I wanted to cry.
He carried Frodo up a mountain while they're both starving and dehydrated.
I cried bro tears.
Cries manly tears.
Yeah, but
ultimate bromance.
Yeah, exactly. And so Sam, I don't think Sam is a hard sell at all. Sam is just a great character, great acting all throughout. Gimli, I feel personally connected to Gimli because I relate.
Such a gruff character.
If the Eaton family was transferred to a fantasy universe, the Eatons would be dwarves. I would be a dwarf. Definitely.
I don't know what I would be. I'd probably be like an angry hobbit or something.
An angry, unusually tall hobbit.
I'd be like a pessimistic hobbit, which just stands out of the crowd.
I would like to throw in, like, honestly, my favorite character is Legolas.
Mm-hmm.
However, we've seen Orlando Bloom. He's broken that tie. He's done other things like Pirates of the Caribbean. He's done other movies to where he's not just Legolas.
Mm-hmm.
Even though also very popular.
As opposed to Pirates of the Caribbean and Lord of the Rings, though. What other characters?
He was in Troy. That's that's another role I know him from, Troy.
Like, the one or two things I can think of is that he was in that really, really bad Three Musketeers movie.
Oh yeah, that one.
But even then,
So bad.
my point is that even though he's my favorite character, despite that, I think he's an easier to replace character. But on the contrary, but similar level, even though he's done other things, I feel like Gandalf is going to be hard to replace because for some reason, just him, his acting, his presence.
Ian McKellen is iconic.
Yeah, he
honestly
is
he
Gandalf.
can still play Gandalf in the Amazon show.
So
Let's just not replace him. Let's just
because that's the thing. It's like it's something. It goes to the fact when you play someone so good, it's almost impossible to replace.
Yeah, but actually for the show, they could cast a younger, still old, but a younger Gandalf, maybe like 50s or something.
Well, he's ageless, but still on the older side.
Exactly.
If that makes sense.
So like they could
potentially, but I don't want to see like a young spry.
No, not a young spry, but like
don't
just
make it hip. Okay.
No. Aragorn is one that's interesting though because
was a very interesting one.
I don't think
they recast him. They originally had one actor for him, and then they're like, you know what, this guy's too young. We need an older actor.
Viggo Mortensen.
Yeah, they got Viggo Mortensen. There's actually I
would look into that.
I want to look on a tangent, but the first scene that you see Aragorn in, partially, when his pipe lights up his eyes, that's somebody else. That's the other actor.
Oh, okay.
And you notice it because he looks completely different.
Okay. Yeah. But Aragorn is one I think is interesting because the character is really cool and he's so important, but I don't think Viggo Mortensen is that great of an actor. That's fair.
Okay, so
and his acting clearly gets better, but there are some moments in the Fellowship where I don't think he really hits it right.
Well, it's hard because his character is so much more subtle. So you'd think it'd be easier, but in a way it's almost harder. Mm-hmm. So one thing that I praised in the last episode we're talking about was Jennifer Lawrence's performance as Katniss Everdeen from Hunger Games, where there is so much emotion going on without showing the presence of emotion. That's especially a hard skill to acquire, and I feel like she was the perfect cast for that character.
Mm-hmm. So going back to the actor for Aragorn, Stuart Townsend was originally cast for Aragorn, but was replaced by Viggo Mortensen.
Who's Stuart Townsend?
After 4 days of shooting, because Peter Jackson realized that an older actor was needed.
Oh, dude, can you
imagine?
imagine?
Rough.
Yeah, can you imagine? Like, you're so excited, you're a part of this Lord of the Rings, you feel like it's going to be big, everybody's talking about it, and then you don't get it. You're probably bummed at first, right?
They look similar.
You got it, and then you don't get it.
Yeah. And you probably, but the thing is that at first there was probably two stages of this. At first he was bummed, right? Because like super bummed because he's no longer in it. Even though he was in it,
he's
no longer in
probably
it.
more bummed afterwards.
But
when it was
I would say once he's seen the legacy of the Lord of the Rings, now he's got to be like pissed because like he missed out on an iconic role that happens not even once in a lifetime for these actors.
Yeah.
What's funny is that originally Viggo Mortensen didn't know anything about the story. It was his son who actually read the books and said, "Dad, you should do this character."
Oh, his son must be so silly. Yeah, my dad was almost Aragorn.
Yeah, he brought his son to set, and he would be able to.
No, this is Viggo Mortensen, the guy who actually got to play him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Viggo Mortensen.
I thought you were talking about the other.
No. I don't know if that guy had a son or not. Maybe.
So Aragorn is one that I was kind of like it's still good, but like if I had to pick any of the performances that I was not as impressed with, it was Aragorn.
Okay, but one thing that I want to point out is the character Aragorn is very different in the book. He's not. Yeah, he's not reluctant to become the king. He's like he's ready to go. He's the sword that he gets in the third movie is reforged in the first movie. Like he carries it around as a broken piece for the longest time, and then before they leave Rivendell,
can you tell me some of the biggest differences between the books and the movies? I'm so interested by that.
Probably Aragorn. Faramir was a really big difference because there wasn't really him being reluctant to actually. He didn't take the hobbits captive really and bring them all the way to Osgiliath. Uh-huh. He actually in the books he's like, don't worry, I wouldn't want to pick up the ring if it was like by the wayside. Mm-hmm. He wasn't trying to find any redemption in front of his father in that way. Yep. And then the last thing, well, they cut out a lot of stuff, but I want to say like changes. I would say the scouring of the Shire. So after they defeat Sauron, the hobbits go back home. They're like, all right, we're going to be back home. It's going to be great. We're going to see our families again. And they come back to like basically a wasteland. It's been basically taken over by wild men and other people. And actually Saruman survives and goes back to the Shire. And that's where he's basically set up his station. Like he's taken over that place because he survived. He was able to leave his Orthanc, his tower. Yep. And he went there, and the hobbits come back to him, and they're just like, wow, this guy's taken over our home. He's literally living in Bag End, Frodo's house.
How do they deal with that?
Oh, well, spoiler alert, he gets stabbed he gets his neck sliced by Grima Wormtongue, who actually came with him. Huh. So so Frodo basically tells him, you have no power here, it's time for you to leave. And he notices that there's all the angry hobbits who literally will kill him. His power's basically gone, except for in his voice and that sort of thing. And then he's like, get up, worm. He kicks Grima, and he's like calling him all these names. And I think Frodo tries to give him a chance of redemption, be like, hey, Grima, you can come with us. You don't have to follow him anymore. And then Saruman says something, and Wormtongue gets mad, and he goes and he slices his throat. Oh, okay. And then,
should have given him a sock.
Wow, that's crazy.
So, I've read the book a couple times.
Isn't the like physical eye something they changed?
It's just it's a metaphorical eye actually. Oh, something that's a really big difference. Sam and Frodo do not separate in the third movie when they're going up the stairs of Cirith Ungol. Okay. They actually go into the tunnel themselves together, and then they get separated because. Gollum, he basically brings Frodo somewhere else and Sam gets left behind.
Oh, okay.
But they don't, Frodo doesn't try to send him away.
Okay.
So that's the stuff that I can remember right now. There's probably other things that I really forgot.
Aragorn, that's funny that Aragorn is so different.
Yeah.
Would you say really different, or?
He's very, very confident in the books.
Okay, so he's not
he's returning as a king. He's like, I'm going to Minas Tirith with Boromir to take up my rightful place.
Oh, at the beginning.
In the books, they're literally going there, and then the whole thing with Boromir happens, and he's still on his way there, but he goes to some side quest to save Merry and Pippin and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
but that's the stuff that I can remember. I haven't read the book in a while, or the books.
And is Aragorn still an older character in the books?
Yeah, he's still an older character. Again, he's supposed to be 87, but he's still young-ish because he's from the line of long-lasting men called Númenóreans, which were like the first. I don't know if they're the first men, but they were blessed with long life, basically. Yep. Mm-hmm. And I'm speaking very quietly, apparently, by looking at the thing.
Okay, doing well. Yeah.
So that's my knowledge of Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, because I still should read the books. I've never read the books.
It's a big haul, but
it's a very long haul. If you can get past the Council of Elrond, then you're probably going to do okay.
Council of Elrond.
That's like
in the first
20 pages in a chapter. 20
wow.
There's I could go look actually.
No, we can do that later. But so I love Gimli too. He's hilarious.
He is very good. Yeah. I felt bad for John Rhys Davies, the actor who played Gimli, though, because he was allergic to the prosthetic.
Oh, really?
Every day he had to wear that prosthetic, and it would irritate his skin so much. It would literally. He wanted to rip it off and just scratch his face as much as he could, but he couldn't. So he was when he was filming, in the battle scenes, he was literally hitting the stunt guys who were playing the orcs. Like, he was going after them. He was in pain. He was not happy. So,
really feel his like character in a way.
Yeah, so at the end of filming, actually, they gave him his last prosthetic mask, and they're like, hey, this is for you, and there's a fire going over there. He grabs it, runs over to the fire, and throws the mask, the face, like the prosthetic face, right into the fire and burns it. And he's like, I'm so happy right now.
That's awesome. I love to have a Harrison sword.
I never knew that.
See, your favorite is Legolas.
Yes.
And your favorite is...
I have to say Sam, honestly. He's just such a good character. Like, he has... All I can think of is one moment where he's not going to do the right thing, per se, or he's hesitant. It's when he's going to give the ring back to Frodo. And he's like, I don't know if I can, because I kind of like the ring, and is having the power over him. And then he's able to do it. Mm-hmm. That, and he does misunderstand a lot of Gollum and Smeagol. He's, not trustworthy of him, which is a good point, but again, there's the empathy that Frodo has, which is a good thing and a bad thing. Mm-hmm. Again, something that Gandalf says in the Fellowship of the Ring, which is very important, was like, some of us don't get to choose death. Many who live don't deserve life. Who are we to give it to them, basically? Yeah. And because of Smeagol, basically he's the reason that the ring is destroyed. Because at the end of the movie, spoiler alert, sort of, I don't care, Frodo has the ring, and he's like, I'm going to keep it. And then Gollum bites his finger off like a carrot, and then he's like, I got the ring, and they fight over it, and then he falls over, and the ring goes down, and that is the very reason that everything happens. So it was unintentional, but having Smeagol live throughout the story, not killing him, was the very reason that they won in the end. Yeah. Which is pretty profound in a way. Uh-huh.
So that
I'm sorry, I'm going on a tangent,
okay,
but I know some stuff about this.
That might embody Tolkien's perspective that violence isn't... You know what I mean? That what you were talking about earlier, he didn't like violence. Maybe that's like his, they didn't kill him, and so they won because they didn't kill him.
Okay, so you remember in Return of the King where Aragorn is going and he's going to, he's going to try and, lure Sauron out so Frodo and Sam can get to Mount Doom. That is basically the very point. It's they're fighting not just to, defeat them. They're fighting so that Frodo and Sam have a chance to do what has to be done. Yep. So it's not about the big battle, who will win, who will lose. It's about what's going on behind that. Yep. They're trying to make a last stand. They're trying to be okay, we might not be able to save ourselves, but we might be able to buy time. Mm-hmm. Which is, again, really profound. And I'm sorry, I'm talking for most of this part.
That's okay, this is your section.
I guess
we're using your section anyway,
I guess I'm just narrating everything I can to the people on the pod who are listening to the podcast, so...
It's okay. Welcome to Audiobooks with Alexander Shaw.
Hello now. I will be your voice host.
Your voice host. Welcome.
Good evening.
We're glad to have you.
We're talking about Lord of the Rings. It's gonna be fun. So enjoy. I really love those movies.
I do too.
It's something that you pointed out was that the first movie is actually 3 hours long. I thought that
the third one is.
The third one?
The third one's 3.5 hours long.
Oh,
and the first...
Wait. Extended editions.
Not extended. We don't watch the extended ones. We watch the theatrical versions. I always watched
the extended ones, and I thought they were 3 hours long each. But it turns out the original was...
Yes, because if you watch all of the extended versions, it's 12 hours of movie.
I did not know that. I thought I was really...
That's a lot of acting to do as a...
Yes. The theatrical versions are 3, and 3.5.
See, I feel bad if I watch the theatrical versions. I'm not a real fan. I need to watch the original.
I haven't seen the extendeds I think I've only seen the extendeds once. I'm so excited. Some other friends of mine and I are going to watch all of them this December.
I have the third extended edition. I need to get the other two. Mm-hmm. But yeah, they are very, very good. And they don't add to the plot as much, but they're very welcome. Yeah, I'd say it's good.
Well, there's a reason, because if they did, they would still be in the movie.
Exactly.
People have to sit in the movie theater for a very long time. So,
anyway, I can't remember the last time I went and saw a movie in theaters that was 3.5 hours long. How long was Infinity War? Not
that, but the next one will be possibly 3 hours or more.
Really? In Avengers 4?
I'm fine with that.
I'm okay with that. I love being in the movie theater. I get the most out of my ticket.
Yeah,
it's good.
That's a movie that makes sense to do that too.
Yeah.
I was going to say, for you, we're talking about this new series, is there anybody that you feel like is going to be the hardest to recast? Is there somebody you already have in mind for the characters?
I think it's going to be very hard for them to recast Gollum.
Yeah.
That's Andy Serkis made an iconic performance.
And I think they have to capture a different part of these characters in the show so that it doesn't feel the same. You know what I mean? So it doesn't feel like you're watching the same thing again.
Yeah.
Because obviously when you adapt a character, you do tend to like accentuate some part of that character. Well, so maybe they'll take it from a different angle.
They might make a more accurate version of Gollum where he has like very, very, dark skin from being under like the caverns and everything, and like pale, luminescent eyes.
There you go. Yeah.
They actually. Sorry.
Would you argue that for the series, since you have even more time to use than the extended versions, believe it or not, would you argue that the right approach to go about this is to make it more accurate to the books?
Yes and no, I'd say, because you have to have certain things in episodes to make them gripping, I guess. And a lot of the time, like a lot of the parts of the story are not gripping. They're very, very slow. Mm-hmm. I don't know how they're going to adapt that, because they jump back and forth a lot in the Lord of the Rings books. But if you read them, they jump back and forth. Sorry, they jump back and forth a lot in the movies. But if you read the books, they basically have a whole storyline for one character's perspective. So like Frodo and Sam going one way, and then the second half of the book is everybody else on another part of it. Okay. So they're not jumping back and forth, which is pretty difficult. I think that's how it goes. I can't remember, actually.
I'm really intrigued by Lord of the Rings fan casts now.
I'm not sure.
Because they haven't announced anything for that yet.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about them casting the Lord of the Rings or even redoing it, because if they do big name actors, I'm just going to see them as big name actors.
Well, no, because it'll be too expensive to do that.
For a TV show.
I mean, look at Game of Thrones. They casted so many people that weren't established before, and it was.
They had Sean Bean.
They did have Sean Bean. They did have.
Still died.
They had what's his face, midget dude.
Midget dude.
Wow. Small people will. Good grief. Yeah. Peter Dinklage.
Peter Dinklage. Yeah.
Yeah.
So those are probably the two biggest. I mean, I could be wrong, but I feel like those.
Who is Jamie Dornan? Did that name ring a bell to you?
Jamie Dornan. Can I see?
They're like Aragorn fan cast.
It doesn't look familiar.
Oh, I know who they should cast as Aragorn, even though they totally
Aragorn. He's not flying a dragon.
Keanu Reeves.
No.
You want to see like a karate Aragorn?
Who said he's going to do what? Where'd you get
Keanu Reeves is a karate guy.
Yeah, he is.
He's a martial arts guy. That's his thing. Yeah.
Dream.
I'm sorry. I don't know if I want to see John Wick in Lord of the Rings. It sounds interesting in theory, but
who's Morgoth? Melkor Morgoth.
Morgoth is the original baddie in the Silmarillion. So he was one of like the very powerful angels or deities that was moved into Middle Earth, and then he became bad, and he was actually Sauron's master up until the point where he was defeated.
Sauron kills John Wick's dog, and then it's the whole mission of John Wick just destroying the entire Middle Earth.
Why not just make a whole mashup, a big soup of something else?
It was like the Stranger Things kids as the young hobbits. Oh, wait.
Dustin might be kind of funny as one of the hobbits.
I can see him being a hobbit.
Maybe Sam. Or maybe, no, Pippin.
I can see him as a Sam.
Maybe Pippin. I could see him as Pippin. Yeah.
Oh, wait. The Amazon series is set in Middle Earth, and that the adaptation will explore new storylines preceding J.R.R. Tolkien's Fellowship of the Ring. So it's okay. So it's not
preceding. So it's not Lord of the Rings. It's.
I guess not. I guess it is prequel.
How recent is that news? We're just finding about this as we're doing it.
Oh, this is an article from November of last year. Maybe I'm. Lord of the Rings, Amazon. This is important to know.
Yeah.
I need the newest. Where's the newest?
This must be very interesting to listen to. I'm sorry, everyone.
No,
We need to look. We should probably look this stuff up before we do the podcast.
Amazon Studios is making a TV series set in J.R.R. Tolkien's Middle-earth. Rumor has it that it'll be about a young Aragorn, the character played by Viggo Mortensen.
So it's not after, it's before?
The show is there, looming on the horizon. Amazon is... Yeah, I guess there still isn't much known about it.
Yeah, so they are still
based
recasting
off of a young Aragorn. Come on, that's not a story. Okay.
Hey, do you remember that video game about Aragorn? Do you remember that?
No. Was it Return of the King or the Two Towers?
No.
I remember the Hobbit video game. I remember we talked about it. I think it was last week, possibly.
Lord of the Rings, Aragorn's Quest. You don't remember that?
Wait. I'm looking at it now.
He's looking.
I don't think I played it.
I don't think I played it either, but...
No, they have some stories for Aragorn, like, before the Lord of the Rings, but I don't think it's enough to make a TV show.
Yeah. I don't know how they're... Yeah. We'll see how that plays out. Yeah, so they are going to be recasting people. It may not be in the same age, but they're definitely going to be featuring returning characters. Yeah. So yeah, anything else you want to add?
I don't think so. I feel like I've told basically half the story today.
I know.
So really I'm sorry again, guys, for all my talking, but this is a podcast, and talking is
good. You're good, man.
I just don't want to take up all this,
Third topic, more Lord of the Rings.
Here you go. We're done with the Hobbit for our third section.
We're pulling a Lord of the Rings. We're doing 3 segments.
Wow, but we really
Yeah.
Good job, guys. On the spot, we killed 2 segments.
I guess you'll have to save your other topic for next week.
Oh darn! I'll be able to rant enough, though.
I was gonna say
I'll be able to think about it more and just get more mad about it.
Yeah, he's already riled up.
You guys can look forward to that.
Okay, but for now, I'm going to completely change gears here and talk about something completely different. We love Rooster Teeth as a company, and we talk a lot about Ruby and a lot of their other stuff. We talked about Genlock, their upcoming animation show.
Yeah, they came out with a new trailer recently.
Yeah, not trailer, clip. Like they came up with a clip.
No, they came out with a clip and then a trailer.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah. So if you haven't seen Genlock, definitely go check it out. It's looking super promising. They've got really...
It's okay, buddy.
They've got really good voice actors in it. They have David Tennant. They have Michael B. Jordan. We were talking about Game of Thrones. They have one of the girls from Game of Thrones in there.
Really? Who?
The small girl...
Arya Stark?
Yes.
Maisie Williams?
Yes, Maisie Williams. Thank you. Yeah, they have Maisie Williams in it.
Wow.
And and they have other big names out there too. So like they've... And from hearing this clip, this was the first time of seeing what it's like going to be like in the show, and not like over dramatized in the trailer. Mm-hmm. And you can tell like the voice acting is like top notch, and it just sounds really good. And it looks also really good because unlike Ruby, they've really established this new software that they've been working with and how they want to take this artistic wise.
Yeah.
And
so they have their vision for it laid out.
People are trying to do more and more because they did it with Star Wars Resistance. And they're doing it with the Dragon Prince, I think, right? Like the 3D, 2D...
Well, it's just like with Ruby. You've seen it evolve so much from it. It looks completely different than in Season 1 because that was their first animated show, so they're now doing this. But that's just their animated division. What we're going to be talking about is their live-action division because they recently came out with a movie called Bloodfest. So far, Rooster Teeth has come up with 2 movies before this, being... Laser Team. Wow, I just totally blanked on it. And Laser Team 2. I've seen the first one. Haven't got a chance to see the second one. I do. You can actually watch it on YouTube.
They had a couple of big names in that one, or at least one I can remember. It was was the guy from Superstore.
Yeah, and he's doing more and more now. So he's an upcoming actor, at least for TV shows. I don't know if we'll see how he does in the movie scene, but. And he's freaking hilarious. I love him so much.
Who's in the second one that's notable?
Gavin.
Same lead cast, and I can't remember the other people, but so Laser Team was their first theatrical debut for a live action movie, and it had good success. They've done fundraising like through Kickstarter for these movies to help fund them, and they've been good. I'd say decent. Obviously, they're not going to hit a home run on their first go, but I feel like they've been doing a good job. I mean, they've been in production for a long time now. But Bloodfest is the first time they're doing something different because, the second movie was a sequel. And this one was a horror comedy that they did. So branching out a little bit, because the other one was just kind of like a sci-fi comedy, but definitely more of a comedy than sci-fi. Because that's where the strength lies, within comedy. So now they're doing something a little bit more serious, still adding a little bit of Rooster Teeth flair in there. And yeah, my take is that I rather enjoyed it. Yeah, I feel like I'm definitely seeing the improvements in their production. I feel like this was by far their best production. They had they're really getting up there with actors. They had one of the main actors was Ned from Spider-Man Homecoming, which was really wild. It's like the only other movie he's in right now, by the way.
Yeah.
He's just up and coming, and like Homecoming.
He was also in Avengers, Infinity War. For a
yeah.
small part, but just being in Avengers 3 is a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
So,
but
I
yeah,
just wanna point that out.
he's a new actor, and like Homecoming was his breakout thing. So the fact that the main other movie he's in right now is Bloodfest.
He was basically Ned in this movie too, though.
I don't know.
Like a little older.
I don't know.
A
little older. It was kind of ambiguous on how old they were. Were they teenagers or were they young adults?
I'd say
they must have been young adults.
Yeah.
He must have been a young adult. I really hope.
I really hope so.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then they also had Zachary Levi.
That was great.
That was short so time, great. But it was
also
worth it.
Playing himself, by the way.
Yeah.
So good.
It made me very happy, especially after like watching the trailer for Shazam. I know more about him. Well, I've seen his face more. Like I know him as Flynn Rider, which is what they knew him as too.
I will say we're going to be talking spoilers. I think it's worth seeing. You can rent it really cheap. Go ahead, check it out if you feel like having a good laugh. But
being disturbed deeply because I was too.
It is graphic. It is
rated R. Messed up.
Yeah, it's rated R. Well, I think it's unrated.
Yeah, unrated probably.
But if it had a rating, it'd be R. Simply because it's super graphic.
Yeah, but it's the production value for Rooster Teeth is pretty good, but it's still pretty cheesy too.
Yeah, but I think that's
they're crowdfunding a lot of it.
Well, yeah, but I think that they're owning that too. They're not trying to be a blockbuster. They're finding that sweet spot of.
I think they're being ironic and like self-aware.
Yeah, and I think they're really directing their production quality where it matters as far as look and feel. They realize that some parts would really help if it looked really professional, and some parts don't matter as much.
When I was watching the movie, like at a certain point, I felt like, okay, this movie is woke because it's so aware of what it is going on. They're like, there's literally one part where the guy who is running Bloodfest is like, we are gonna make an actual horror movie. Would you guys like that? I'm like, it's the movie. The movie's the movie.
Yeah.
Come on, dude.
It's a movie within a movie within a movie.
Like, this is a little too much, if you ask me.
And
they also have, did we already mention that it had the actor from Once Upon a Time who played Peter Pan?
Oh, no, we didn't. Yeah, he's the lead actor in this.
Pretty good. Like, I haven't watched Once Upon a Time a lot. I saw some of it, but I knew that he was Peter Pan in it.
I think one thing that's really important with this type of... Because I've been saying that horror comedy is a hard genre because it's so easy to make it like too cheesy where the horror just doesn't make sense, or make it so scary that the comedy just seems out of place and it takes you out of it.
Zombieland is a good one. I don't know if I'd call it horror, but it's comedy. Yeah.
I think it's a hard category because they're kind of like polar opposites. You're talking about being scared and laughing, which is kind of like opposite emotions almost.
You know what though?
What?
The guy who directed Venom directed Zombieland.
True. Yeah. Good example of having dark, comedy. But that one was less. Wasn't really horror. It was just
like a dark comedy.
Yeah. It's just edgy. Yeah. This one is like, like the whole thing. The subject matter is horror.
horror.
Yeah. So and they definitely had some graphic stuff in there, especially when they were opening with the chainsaws and all that.
Yeah.
When they took out Gavin. What the crap?
I know, they literally sawed Gavin in half.
He's just like, what's going on?
Yeah, like you just...
Why are you running?
Also, I liked how they're relying less and less on their internal acting. For the most part, all their in-house actors were cameos, with the exception of Barbara, who is actually pursuing more acting careers, and I felt like she did a good job.
At first, I felt like it was kind of
I would agree.
Rough at first.
Yeah, I feel like she definitely, as she's going along with her character arc, I feel like she definitely got the more of a hang of it, But I feel like that first, the first 10 minutes.
The first scene I saw her in, I was like, Barb, hi.
I also really liked the douchey boyfriend dude who was with the vape and all that.
Okay, at first, I was like, did they de-age Gus? What is this guy?
There's
Gus is one of the guys in
I know.
Okay, so there's a funny. Oh, real quick while we mentioned Gus. So Gus was originally in the movie, and he had his like own story arc. He ended up getting cut out of the entire movie. He's talked about it on so many podcasts. He's so salty about it. There is a way to get a cut of all of his scenes.
Really?
Please, yes.
How can we do that?
I got to find out. But
Okay, please do. I want to
We
see.
need to watch that, yeah.
I would like to say that my impression of the movie was I didn't know what to do with it. Like, I'll be honest. Like, I didn't know how to.
Felt like that, yeah.
I don't know how to feel about it.
It's a horror movie within a horror movie.
There are some parts that I thought were funny, but honestly, they were far in between. And
my favorite comedy bit was the clowns we found on Craigslist.
yeah, that was pretty good too. He's like, what did he say
He
before
went on this
that?
whole long
Oh, yeah, he's like,
rant
Finding
about
like finding
Yeah.
a guy having like a crazy guy have him watch a scary movie and then tell him that he is the character.
It was some like really dark and
I was
twisted.
like,
Like we
that's-
turned these
wow.
guys into bad
yeah,
people.
like brainwashing
and the
all that
clowns we got on Craigslist.
stuff.
yeah.
Clowns we got. That was such a good
I like
pivot.
seeing the clowns fight the zombies.
That was a really.
But
So-
I also feel like if it's supposed to be set in the real world, it doesn't really make sense that they'd they'd be able to reanimate the bodies.
They're
and
definitely
have
breaking some
European
boundaries.
vampires.
I was gonna say, so there was something that was entertaining about the movie, but I didn't feel like there were really that many scary parts, and I didn't really feel like there were that many funny parts. And that's like the two genres the movie is, and then the vampire scene made me really uncomfortable. So like,
yeah, it was, but it was also kind of funny because Ned wasn't noticing.
Yeah.
I'm gonna call him
Yeah.
Ned. I forget his actual name in the story, but I'm gonna call him Ned. Okay.
that was he's totally oblivious to
I'm
it.
just like, good job,
And
buddy.
I thought
Good
that
job.
was pretty funny.
Yeah, he used a pun, so of course you like.
Oh well, yeah, there was one in that part. I also love Blaine's scene in that where he's like just chilling around, and then he's in the background as Ned's being oblivious.
He just laughs and says, "Huh, nerds." And I'm like, you work at Rooster Teeth. You're at Blood Fest. What? Yeah. The movie, again, I was able to enjoy parts of it, but I was also, I'm not really a horror movie guy. We already know this, and so I was rather disturbed by a lot of it, especially like the final reveal and of like the other villain.
I totally knew it was his sister, by the way.
I noticed it was a girl. I was like, this person's very small and slight.
My
so.
giveaway was, okay, they've got a mask on it. It's going to be someone we know. The only character that hasn't been utilized is his sister. Literally.
Okay.
Like,
Yeah.
that's why it gave it away for me.
What did you think about the?
sense how dark they became, though? Especially his dad. I was like,
I was going to say, what did you
this
guys think
doesn't-
about the father? Did you see that coming, or?
I wasn't surprised. I wasn't thinking about it, but when it happened, I wasn't surprised. I was like, oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I was like, this doesn't make any sense. I kept thinking back to Star Wars, where Obi-Wan's just like, you became the very thing you swore to destroy. I'm like,
You kept
you're
saying it,
literally
too.
making it. You're literally making horror, and you're enjoying it. You are the problem now that you thought you were trying to eradicate. What's up, dude? That made me mad.
Well, I think it's hard because they were trying to go for a surprise, but at the same point, because if they built up too much, then it'd be like, well, of course, if it's him, they've given him all these reasons why it would be this guy.
And it was actually
So-
Blaine. He was actually alive.
Wait, what?
No, it was theorizing.
Oh, you're just trying to think
If
of
we had
something.
another villain, who would
Different
it
options for the
Yeah.
yeah.
be? It would have. Yeah, okay, I'm sorry.
I felt like the main two actors, the guy and the girl there who end up
We
surviving.
need to remember their names, or at least write
Yeah.
it down.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
With movies like this, maybe it just doesn't matter.
Well, then there's Rogue One, which is probably the biggest cause of not being able to remember names, just because they're not memorable for some reason.
Yeah.
What movie?
Rogue One.
Oh, I watched
Literally,
it. I
we
actually
mentioned
do,
it today.
I
We
do
couldn't
remember
remember
the names. Thank you.
Jyn
very much.
Orso!
Yeah, Cassian Andor. TKSL.
I don't know what that is, but yeah.
Chiro Imwe.
I'm sure-
What's
I'm
the
sure
robot's
this-
name again?
TKSL.
TKSO.
See,
Such a better droid than the solo droid.
Yeah.
Whoa.
I'm sure there's a science to why why characters can have memorable names and why not, but I'm not going to go into that now.
I think it's like, well, for one, I'm terrible with names, but also it depends on the kind of characters that you're watching. These characters, they have specific roles in a horror movie. So it's going to be like the main guy, the main girl, the, virgin
Yeah, they didn't really
friend,
stick out.
funny friend. The person who's very dumb is gonna die. The attractive girl, and then like the old guy. And I actually, you know what? I really like the old guy. I thought he had a good, you know.
I like Zachary Levi.
I like Zachary Levi too, and I was
Flynn
like,
Rider!
survive, Flynn, and he didn't.
Yeah, it was sad.
I'm bummed. So that movie, again, it was disturbing for me, and I was also, I think it's kind of like what you said. Like I found parts of it enjoyable, and I'm pretty happy with Rooster Teeth being able to come out with it. I thought it was like a decent job.
Yeah.
But I don't feel like it's a movie that I'm just like, oh, people have to go see it. It's so
no.
good.
And I'm not saying that. I'm saying if you appreciate Rooster Teeth content, you're definitely going to enjoy this. If you like this type of movie, I say it's worth watching. I'm not saying you have to watch it.
There's reasons you would enjoy it.
Yeah.
But
I think what I do like is that this one definitely is distinctly different than other, because I feel like a lot of the things that I hate that are typical for this one, I don't see nearly as much. It's got other issues, granted, but I feel like the main issues for this kind of genre that I normally just hate, being like really bad acting and just like the crap, like, I don't know, the comedy in them, I don't find usually hilarious. That's a bad part of it, is that the comedy that are in these comedy horrors, I just don't find
Tucker
funny.
and Dale versus Evil, though.
That was
like,
a good
that is
one.
such a great movie.
That was messed up too.
I want to watch that again.
We should watch that. We should have a movie night sometime.
We should watch
it.
that, yes.
Yeah.
It is Spooktember.
I think one of the things is that
Or
this movie is
Spooktember.
That was last month.
Spooktober.
It's Spooktober.
Thank you.
Boy. Yeah, I think one of the movies. Sorry. I think one of the problems with the movie is that it is made up of tropes, which I think it can be a good thing and a bad thing. So it's like, oh, this movie is entirely predictable because it's made up of these things.
But then they're directly referencing it, so it's kind of weird.
They know it,
Yeah.
And also, I think it's also...
It's like Cabin in the Woods. Have you guys seen Cabin in the Woods?
No, I don't want to watch that one.
Why not?
Because I saw a clip of it and it looks scary. I don't want
It's scary.
No, I don't want to watch it.
Okay, one thing that I have, like, but this was a weird comedy horror because it was such a change on the genre as a whole. What was the one with the cabin
In the woods?
in the woods with the two hillbillies that were
Tucker and
That's
Dale.
Tucker and Dale versus
Dude!
Evil.
Okay.
What the heck?
Sorry, I didn't realize that was the movie you guys.
Yeah.
Alan Tudyk.
When they accidentally kill everybody?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Tucker and Dale.
I think that's an awesome
remember the
movie.
wood
That's like
chipper?
probably your best example of a horror
my
comedy.
word.
Yes and no, because it was
You're
such
holding
a,
the gun wrong, the safety's on. Oh.
but I think it's such a unique plot that defined the movie in a way that you can't just repeat that and do that again.
No, you can't.
That's such a unique concept that worked for that so well and that was more. I wouldn't say that as the perfect example of what to do that for genre. I think that was a great example of how to play on your expectations within that genre.
Yeah.
And all these things that you would like trying to relate from character to character.
I mean,
I want to
can't
see
go
them
in-
do. I want to see Rooster Teeth do like create their own like '80s slasher movie. That would be funny. That'd be kind of cool.
Sure, bring it back. Just like where they're talking. Oh, what if they actually made the slasher that they referenced? Having
Yeah,
in
the Arborist.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I
Arbor
kinda wanna
Day.
watch. They can make a small TV show of that.
I think
That'd
it'd be cool.
Fun.
Okay, so think about movies like actually think about Evil Dead. Evil Dead was supposed to be like a serious like scary movie, but it became such a laughing stock.
Such a
They
trope.
embraced it and
Yeah.
they made and there's even a TV show now.
Yeah,
that's
it's finished, I think, but it's on Netflix. I
yeah.
think.
So like they could do something like that. That would be cool.
Yeah. It'd be pretty fun. I think one of the problems with this movie, though, is that it's also hinging on the fact that, well, in my opinion personally, is that it's basically like if you are a fan of Rooster Teeth, then
Yeah.
you're gonna like this movie because it has people from Rooster Teeth that
Yeah.
you know and love.
And that's why they're trying to go more and more away from that because they don't want to make it exclusive just for their
No,
fans.
yeah, they might get there. Yeah.
Yeah,
This is definitely a step in the right direction. I feel
Yeah,
like they
yeah.
definitely, and I feel like the notes that they had for Rooster Teeth fans were very subtle but very good. For instance, at one point, Barbara got a phone call and it was the Ruby theme song.
Yeah,
good
I
note.
noticed that.
Wasn't distracting for people who don't know what it is. You know.
but it must have been very weird for people watching in the movie theater who didn't know anything about Rooster Teeth, and then hearing everyone else laugh who did like Rooster Teeth. And
Yeah,
watch
you're
the
just
movie.
kind of like,
Why are you
what?
laughing at her ringtone?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty good ringtone.
I think that like I said, I think this movie suffers from other areas that they're personally working on. But I feel like as far as what they're doing for the genre and how they treated this, they had characters that I cared about. I'm not saying I cared about all the characters, but they did have characters.
I cared about Ned. What gives?
Which is something that I feel like is a hard thing for the genre. There's just so many times the characters I just don't care about. Like, they're just so stupid that I don't even care if they die.
Yeah.
And the comedy, it's either just not working or it's just not for me, because very rarely will I have a fun time with these movies. So it just fails on so many fronts that it's actively trying to do. I feel like the problems with this movie is not related to, like, other than the fact that, yeah, it could have been scarier. It was really graphic, so there was that aspect. But as far as it actually being scary, not as much. But I didn't mind that as much because I was more in it for the comedy side of this. So they could have worked on that aspect. But as far as the main bullet points they're trying to hit, I feel like they did a good job.
Okay.
And they have other issues, and I think it's less of an issue with this movie, more stuff that they've been working on for movies in general, as they're learning how to be a movie production company.
Okay.
Trying to find those lines of how much service do we do to our Rooster Teeth fan base and how much do we do like outside Rooster Teeth, trying to find that right balance, trying to find how to do stuff that really does well in a movie format, because they're so used to doing things in a normal video format, and trying to translate that into a movie format is something new. And I feel like every movie I'm seeing lots and lots of progress, which makes me really excited for what they can come out with in the future.
I still feel like the strongest part right now, though, is their TV shows. Because, originally going back, they basically just had Red versus Blue, and that was them working off of something that was already existing.
Yep.
And it was still very good. But when it comes to making original content, yes, this is pretty decent. I heard that Laser Team wasn't great. But I know that, Ruby did very well. And I know, what was it, 5 nights, the 5-day... What was the one where, like, the Insomniacs, like, had to survive or something? Day 5.
Oh, Day 5. Yeah. I heard good things about that.
Yeah, I
really want to get into that. That's their version of, like, a really high production TV drama about, like, basically a zombie apocalypse where if you sleep, you die. So you literally have to stay awake, and it's their whole process of trying to stay awake during, like, this.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. Really high production. I really want it. It's just long, so I need, because, like, their episodes are almost an hour each.
Yeah.
So I need to, like, find the time to actually binge all
Where
those.
can you watch that?
Is it on roosterteeth.com?
It's on roosterteeth.com. That's where it's one of those first exclusive
You have
things.
to be first, okay.
But yeah, maybe sometime we can all watch it together. But I've heard great things about everybody who's watched it. And I feel like it's probably one of the less talked about but highest quality of things that they have to offer. But yeah, that's a great example of really, really good productions that they were. Again, I just think they do better with TV stuff.
Oh, I do too. I mean,
they do too.
I don't know if I would call Camp TV per se. I guess it'd be TV, but it's like
it's a show.
It's miniseries kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's shorts. But
I would say
really
it's a show. It's a show.
Okay, so it's a show. So they have that. They have Ruby. Genlock is coming out soon. They have a new one called Nomad from Nowhere, which came out this year. I haven't watched a lot of it, but I think it's okay.
Yeah,
I think it's okay.
I think what I like about Rooster Teeth is that they could be doing stuff like Ruby. They could be doing, well, even then, actually, Ruby was more of a risk. I like that they are a company that takes risks. They try new things. They try to challenge themselves constantly and doing more. They could, if they wanted to, they could have just made Red vs. Blue for the rest of eternity, and that's all they ever did. But they decided to do more shows, different content. Yeah. They're doing different content in all areas of their company every day. Their Achievement Hunter branch, which is their gaming section of their company, has now been making their own shows. For example, Achievement Hunter, which is their own ghost hunting show, which is hilarious because they're basically doing legitimate ghost hunting, but at the same time pranking each other and having a fun time with it, very relying on their personalities.
That sounds like fantastic. A horror story movie, though. Like, you prank a friend and then you're the one who dies.
There you go.
Like, good luck.
Ideas.
But yeah, and they're doing other shows as well. They did this awesome thing called Hardcore Tabletop, where they take.
I love Hardcore Tabletop.
Yeah,
can we watch that?
I can put in some more episodes if you want. Yeah. So, but yeah, so Rooster Teeth as a company, I have a lot of respect for all the risks that they're taking, and I feel like every time I watch something new from them, it's always better than the last. And I think that's something that's really hard to continue to achieve consistently.
What's that game show that they have?
On the Spot.
Yeah, I live On the Spot.
Yeah.
Cool.
So
I don't really watch the podcast as much anymore. I feel bad.
I listen to Off Topic and the Rooster Teeth podcast every week. Yeah.
Cool.
All right. Well, that. It's been quite an episode. A lot of the Lord of the Rings, so I hope you like that.
Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings.
Oh, we were saying how we've never really talked about Lord of the Rings. I think the most we've talked about Lord of the Rings before this was actually last episode when we were talking about novels.
Yeah,
and there was just a sprinkle of Lord of the Rings in there.
Yeah,
but
and then I blurted everything out that I knew about Lord of the Rings.
It was wonderful.
Sorry, it was a quarter of it.
It's been holding for a while. Like we've talked about how
I've been holding it in.
Talk about Harry Potter enough. I'd love to kind of watch those again and kind of revisit that for this month. As
lots of good stuff to do at this time of year.
Yeah, so. Absolutely. And maybe we'll watch some more spoopy movies.
Spoopy. Spoopy.
When is the new It movie coming out?
Next year.
Dang it,
why do I know that?
I don't know.
I guess I just saw production pictures.
Anyway, that's all we got for you.
That's all. Anyway,
you came in hot and we're like,
that's all we got. So, stay kind, geeks.